All right. Well, I want to play a couple of clips from the media because I think it's really important that people get why they have to be super vigilant with this stuff because, we saw it on CNN after that State of the Union address, or it wasn't technically a State of the Union address, but a joint session of Congress, I think it was, address. And now we're seeing it again. Here is Fareed Zakaria. I mean, there are basically, these are going to be two examples of how the media will turn on a dime when it comes to this stuff. And here is Fareed Zakaria. Remember, he's talking about a missile attack onto an airbase barely used that was forewarned so that there's really no impact. A completely symbolic gesture which involved Donald Trump saying, do that, or okay, or Jared says, do whatever Jared said to Mattis, or Mattis said to Jared, do that. Here is Fareed Zakaria responding to this.
Fareed, it's day 78 of the Trump presidency. What changed last night?
I think Donald Trump became president of the United States. I think this was actually a big moment because candidate Trump had said that he would never get involved in the Syrian civil war. He told President Obama, you cannot do this without the authorization of Congress. He seemed unconcerned with global norms. President Trump recognized that the President of the United States does have to act to enforce international norms, does have to have this broader moral and political purpose. President Trump realized, as every president has for many decades now, that presidents always believe they have inherent legal authority as commander-in-chief, and they don't need to go to a pesky Congress every time they want military force.
Okay, so...
Yeah, none of that fucking happened.
Well,
okay, let's start with that. None of that.
Well...
I mean, again, like, what the fuck is... I'm sorry, I can't stop myself. What is wrong with these people? And I respect Fareed Zakaria a lot. You know what I mean? As I respected Van Jones when he came out with his stupidity a while back. Oh, he's president now because he gave a good speech or whatever. It's like, stop making him president. Stop turning him into something. I remember they did this with George W. Bush, too, and somebody who clearly was 1,000 times more presidential than this guy. But why is changing this policy from one to the other? Because your advisors tell you it's the thing to do because your poll numbers are sagging. And let's be honest here, we know that has something to do with it. And you want to look tough. Why does that suddenly make him a president, and why does that suddenly make him more thoughtful? He must have thought this out strategically, unlike, let's say, Medicare, which he said he would never cut and then completely switched positions on. Why is this any different from that?
Well, first of all,
what is wrong with? There's something to do with men. I got to tell you, I'm speaking as a man here, where we've got this atavistic caveman thing in us that we see some bombs fly and we look at it like it's shiny jewelry. Ooh, look, the bombs are flying. He must be doing something. I mean, what's the other explanation here for how otherwise intelligent people like Fareed Zakaria become babbling idiots?
I have no idea. And I will say, Michael just IM, and he's like, this is the moment that, Fareed Zakaria could have been saying, like, this is the moment that he backtracked on some of the only appealing things he said during the campaign. But the fact is, the man in the past 78 days has ordered a strike in Yemen that killed 8 children plus other people, has killed 200 civilians in Mosul in the biggest civilian death attack that we've had since probably the Iraq War, has expanded...
And the Yemen thing, you've said this before, but important to include this, Sam, which is the previous administration had decided not to do it because it was too risky. He was told by generals not to do it because it was too risky. He didn't listen, and we lost a Navy SEAL.
On top of which, essentially expanded the parameters in which we are to operate in both Yemen and Somalia to basically throw off the restrictions on what we can do that were put in place to protect and mitigate and limit the number of civilian deaths. So we're going to see a lot more civilian deaths over the course. We certainly saw.
But he doesn't care.
More.
I mean,
well, but here's my point: is like, why doesn't Fareed Zakaria acknowledge that reality? I mean, why didn't the president become the president when he ordered the deaths of those that involved those 8 civilian Yemeni? Why didn't
he become the president when he came in?
Why does the guy
after
become
saying
the president just when he explodes some bombs?
Right. Well, why didn't he become the president after saying he was going to give people the best health care? It's going to cover everybody, and then came in and was going to dump 20 million people off of health care. Did that make him president? I mean, the fact that he jumps from one thing to another, depending on who's whispering in his ear with no ideology, he's a man that completely lacks any morality, any character, couldn't give a shit about anybody beyond his basic universe of him, his dumbass son-in-law, his daughter, and the other people that have been granted nepotism to come into his administration and get security clearance. He doesn't. I mean, I just can't stand it. I mean, when somebody proves they're a certain way their whole life, and the entire time they've been running for office and everything they've ever done, they don't suddenly change. All right? So just because there are bombs flying and they look shiny and nice and beautiful, as Brian Williams said, doesn't change the fact that based upon your system of judging, this doesn't make him suddenly an intelligent, thoughtful man. But he's the same guy he was a week ago.
Listen, even if it was, I don't care. I mean, even if it was Bernie Sanders, I mean, why in Fareed Zakaria's mind, forget about Donald Trump, forget whoever it would be, why does the person become president at that moment with the knowledge that he has already inflicted military casualties on civilians? What was this moment that he became president to pull this sort of stunt, which really is fundamentally meaningless, and which is one that he laid the groundwork for it to happen in the first place, consciously or not consciously, by basically opening the door to this. I mean, there is an illness in our culture, and it is reflected in our media, or vice versa. Hey folks, Sam Seder here. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses. And one way he can is by you subscribing to this channel. I don't know how that works.